Hey, welcome back, everybody. We're on the Art Coach podcast, and today I want to talk to you about play. Play, but also in concert with releasing the destination. And this is a concept that needs to be really adapted and adopted by artists to transcend their resistances. Creating isn't about a destination. It's not about chasing fame, collecting accolades, or going viral on social media. It's not about those things. Those are all byproducts of the authenticity, and it's not the purpose of the practice. The real goal, the one that should fuel the entire creative journey, is the act of creation itself. It's about showing up, being present, and immersing yourself fully in the process without constantly glancing forward to see where it's all headed. And that's a really important thing right there. We need to discuss that. We need to discuss what it means to put the art before the results, before the metrics, before the fame, the notoriety, the money, the galleries, all of those things. Those are byproducts of your artistic authenticity. And when you allow your artistic authenticity to lead, to be at the front, those things come naturally as a byproduct. When you try too hard to get money or galleries or this or that, yeah, they could come, but you're forcing a shape into something that it doesn't fit into. You're forcing something, and also you're not providing the truest and most authentic version of your art because you're distracted. You're compartmentalizing different parts of your identity, different parts of you as an artist into these different segments, as if you're wearing a different mask, a different hat. Right? You're the marketer, you're the entrepreneur, you're the artist. No, you're the artist. And then as you show and express your art into the world, the other things come. Now, I'm not saying you don't want to take actions. Of course, you have to take action, but it should be inspired action. It should be action that comes from a place of deep, deep inspiration. And that inspiration comes from knowing that your art is as authentically yours as it possibly can. Does that mean that your art is original or it's not derivative of somebody else? Not necessarily. I don't think that originality exists, let's say. I think that authenticity exists. Originality is really kind of impossible to fabricate because you can't make without influence. You can't. Even if I were to lock myself in a white room with just, food to survive for 25 years, I would still be influenced by that white room. I would not have original thoughts that weren't based by the influence that I was surrounded by. So originality isn't the goal, it's authenticity. And so if you're taking what you've experienced, right, if you're allowing in everything that's around you, the parts of your life that were hard, that were joyous, that were challenging, that were easy, that were celebratory, or all of it, if you're using all of that to inform and to guide your next decision in your artistic career through the intuitive practice of play, then the things that come as a result of that are just so much more abundant and powerful than those you try to get. And I'll talk about trying real quick. When you try to get something, what you're doing actually is you're practicing not having it. There's no faith there. There's no surrender to the idea that what will come for you in your artistic future is going to happen. There's many people out there who talk about manifestation or prayer. There's overlap between those two types of faith-based belief structures. And when you allow yourself to really be aligned with who you are authentically and what you know you deserve to have and what you know you deserve to provide to the world through your artistic expression, the rest of the stuff that you think you want to fulfill your ego's delight, they just appear because that's how the world works. When you know you have something already, you're aligning the universe, the frequency, the world to bring it to you. And not only that, you're just so aligned that it doesn't matter how hard it is. It doesn't matter how many sleepless nights you get. It doesn't matter how much you have to work on your craft and your paintings and your ability to show it to the world, and your discussions that you have with gallery owners or social media content you create, all the flop videos you make, all the everything, all of that stuff is all worth it because you already know what's coming. You already know. You already have full faith and you've surrendered to the fact that one day you will have the things that you deserve, the things that you want, the things that you know that will come from being the true authentic artist that you are. So trying and putting this forceful effort towards your art, your goals, is not always the best approach. Rather, just knowing what you need to do and knowing what you will have is typically enough to keep you aligned. If you look at most highly successful people, they'll say this almost exactly, but they'll also just show it with their results. They are so sure of what they're heading towards. The clarity is so clear. It's so there that it doesn't matter what has to happen in between. It's just like crossing a bridge. It's like crossing a river. It's like crossing the street. It's just like anything else. You're just moving through space, and eventually you'll get to the destination. And when you have the lack of clarity, that's when things sort of get challenging. When you have no clarity of what you want, you're fragmented. It fragments your identity. It compartmentalizes the parts of your life, the parts of your personality, the parts of your creativity. And when you're fragmented, right, a house divided cannot stand. That isn't just a cliche. It's true. If you think about too many things and you yearn for too many things and you distract yourself with too many things and you don't make the proper sacrifices towards the higher aim, then you become fragmented. And a fragmented person cannot reach their goal because they don't have clarity. So become sure. I challenge you to start journaling, to start writing, to start doing voice memos to yourself, to start making social media content about it, to tell your friends, to declare it with your parents, to declare it with your confidant that you're one day going to have whatever you'd like. You self-define your goal. For me, it's encouraging artists. So I've already decided a long time ago that I'm going to be the person who brings the personal development and coaching side of things to artists because I know for a fact that it's necessary because I experienced it myself. I experienced the transformation within myself. And you can see this in my previous episode where I tell the true story of how I went from being a very shy and timid kid to being somebody who gets millions and millions of views on social media. It doesn't make any sense to me, but I was able to transform myself through this idea of personal development and personal growth and changing the way that our mind is. And I'll talk about that just really briefly. Our mind is a scaffolding. And this is an idea that I've recently stumbled upon from a different creator, and a bunch of other people have written about it. The scaffolding of your identity is a metaphor for the structure that comes from the divine source of your consciousness. So within each person, I believe, there's a divinity. And I think that you can, if you've taken any type of time or effort to look at consciousness and your own and to really reflect on how your thoughts are and how amazing this world is that we're even in it, that the fact that there's even such thing as matter itself, the atomic structure, the molecular structure, the quantum structure, the cosmos structure, all of it, it's just astoundingly awe-inspiring. And so when you approach it this way and you realize that you're just the mere fact that you're alive, the chances of you being alive, and also the identity that you have within, when you strip away your belief structure, your ideologies, your routines, your influences, all of the things that you call yourself, like I say, I'm Sean, I'm an artist. Well, the artist part is a scaffolding that has been built over my life's work. The personality that I hold, the jokes that I make, the way that I speak, the way that I'm talking now, all of that is a scaffolding that is built upon a divine consciousness that's within. And when we realize that there's a structural scaffolding of identity that comes forward from a place that is almost infinitely powerful and filled with potential, then it becomes very possible for you to look at different parts of your scaffolding, let's say, and see and notice the parts that aren't working for you and that aren't actually allowing you to climb upward. And so maybe this analogy could even go further and say that our individual consciousness is within, and the scaffolding is meant to be built upward towards the highest aim and the highest purpose of your own reality. And if you allow yourself to build that scaffolding up and up, you have to, as you go through, audit and change and alter and repair the parts of the scaffolding that was built when you were younger that does not serve you anymore towards your purpose. And so this scaffolding that we've built, we can identify it. And everybody here and that's listening, that's been listening to this podcast, that's listening to this episode, you can identify it yourself. It's a self-identified thing. All of these things will be about going inward. You go inward so that you can expand upward. It is the only way that it works. It's how everyone who's ever been alive and has ever succeeded in anything has done it. They've worked on themselves. They've worked through the things that they've needed to, and they've put in the effort afterwards to achieve the goal that they want. Okay? Now, the scaffolding is something that can be repaired, and once you do, the potential that you can reach is really limitless, and the goal can never be too big, the goal can never be too delusional, and the goal can never be out of reach. It's just something that you know if you want it, you can have it. And if you really, really want it, then you know you have it, and it'll just come through your inspired action. Now, how does this have to do with play? I'm going to bring it back right now because all of these things that I just talked about, the structure of your identity, the consciousness, the divinity, all of that is related to our creativity and our ability to play. Because when we go to the artistic creative practice, what we're doing is we're allowing in and inviting in the spirit of creativity. And I call it a spirit because I believe a spirit is a pattern that is recognizable across time that we can't really quite explain. Our propensity and our distinction as humans is that we are creative people. We always strive to make things, to create other objects, to create novelty, to create experience, to create emotion, to create everything. Everything we do is an expression of ourselves, of something. And so our propensity is to continuously create. And so that creativity is a spirit because it manifests itself over and over in a very similar way. And this is how I define spirit in general. Like you can look at anything. If you look at anger, you could say that anger is a spirit. When someone gets angry, it's similar across all people. And I'll even go further to break this down even more so that maybe you can even understand it further. When you look at a spirit like if you go to Greek mythology and you were to say Zeus, people did not think that Zeus was a person that had a lightning bolt in his hand. That's our personification of it in illustration. But Zeus was the god of thunder and lightning. So when there was lightning, they said it was Zeus because it was a spirit that manifested itself in the natural world repeatedly the same way. It didn't show up this way over here and that way over there, and it was blue lightning and then red lightning and then this, and then it was underwater lightning. It was always from the sky. It always came during the same periods of storm, right? And so in this time when they didn't have the science to say, well, there's the precipitation and there's the ions, they're doing this, and then all the explanation of how it happens, back then they just said, oh, well, it's Zeus, right? It's a spirit that is occurring. And so that's my definition of a spirit. It's not an incorporeal spirit that you can actually have a relationship with in a sense of me talking to you now. It's not in the 3D. It's a pattern. And so the creative spirit is a pattern in which we allow to inhabit us, let's say. When I go to be creative, I don't close myself off. I open myself up to ideas. And where the ideas come from, if you meditate and you sit and you allow ideas to appear in your mind, they kind of just pop up in your mind. Just like you're hearing my voice now through your ears, the voice that I'm saying is appearing in your mind. All experience is centered from the consciousness. It comes from within. It comes from you. And so if you allow in creativity, you allow yourself to have a connection to, let's say, a divine spirit. Because if it's connected to you at the very core, it's a propensity of a human. It's a thing. It's an event. It's a phenomenon. It's a thing that humans do at the very core. It's a hallmark characteristic and tradition that humans do, then you're connecting to something that is beyond our explanation of why or what or purpose or anything. It just is. It's a thing that is. And so you allow the creativity in, and then you play. Because if you allow it in and then you perform, you're not bringing in the actual ideation from the spirit. You're performing through the instruction of the spirit or the creativity. And there's a distinction there. There's a difference there. And so what I would say, a good analogy that I could use is like a jazz musician or a improvisational musician of any kind, a jam band. It can be funk, it can be rock, it can be metal. All musics have it. All forms of music have it. Even classical music, there are people who improv in the classical realm. Okay. When you do that, and of course, obviously, in the classical sense, when the people who first wrote the songs that are then played by orchestras, those ideas, most of those insanely talented musicians, what they say is that they enter, it's like tuning to a radio station, and they enter a trance, and the music is being channeled. And because they've trained their body to use the instrument, then when the idea comes through to play the certain notes together, it's like it's literally just a conduit between them and wherever that source of information comes from. And they're playing. If they were performing, they would be hearing the information and then saying, they would then be disregarding and regarding the information through their own ego and filter to then create what they want to. If you take the information as the raw information and then release it through your practice, you are playing, you are in it. I mean, you guys all can attest to this. If you've ever played a game that you're really into, you don't, the ideas of self-consciousness go away when you're really into something. Even if it's a board game or like D&D or something, when you're really into something, you stop thinking about yourself and you allow yourself to connect to that divinity, that weird spark, that weird spirit that just kind of takes over you. And those thoughts of, will I do this? Will I do this badly? Will I fail? All of those go away because you're in the flow, you're in the zone, you're in the thing, you're in it. And that is true play. There's a part of the brain that actually activates when you're playing and when you're in this state of flow and in the zone. It's different than other states. It's different than when you're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're going to have for dinner. It's different. And so when you enter that state of play as an artist, you allow your authenticity to connect to that spirit of creativity, and the decision making that you make, the decision making that you have during the artistic process flow in a very, very smooth and I have to say again, divine way. It's divine because it's inexplainable, it's ineffable, it's beyond my comprehension. And if you're a listener and I keep saying these words, divine or spirit or things like that, and it makes you feel uneasy because you're more of a scientific materialist, that's fine. I'm also a scientific materialist, and I still believe these types of things because there's parts of science that just don't explain this type of thought. This type of connection to the thing that provides ideas to you cannot be explained through a science. And what it does do is when you approach it with a scientific cynicism, it actually disconnects the connection to that authenticity, to that connection to the spirit of play. And so that was just a little disclaimer for people who are very well connected to that idea, because I was for a long time I was very split, like, no, it doesn't make any sense, my logical mind won't have it, I'm not like the idea of spirituality was very disconnected for me. And so it wasn't for a long time until I just kind of like started to really surrender to the idea that there's more to this than what my ego will tell me that it is, right? The arrogance kind of goes away. And when you surrender to that idea that there's more to this than just the 3D that we're in, it actually allows you to be much more creative, because it gives you a special power. There's a special power in saying that there's a limitless source of energy and idea out there in the cosmos, in the quantum field. And when you accept this and you really bring this in as an idea into your identity and into your scaffolding, right? That's a scaffolding too. This belief structure is also a scaffolding. What it does is it really does quiet the voice of doubt, and it brings in more creative play and more creative happenings. And when you become better at playing, right? Not just playing the game of creativity or the game of painting, the game of drawing, the game of sculpture or singing and poetry, right? The game of creativity as a whole, you get better at playing the games in general. So you become better at playing all games. And when you allow yourself to play in this way with your creative space within your studio or your art practice, it seeps into other parts of your life. So when you go out to dinner with your friends, you're playing in the conversation. When you go dance at a concert, you're playing with the musicians by singing and being in concert with them. When you go to drive your car or you go to work, right? When you drive your car and you're on the freeway, you're playing with all the other cars out there. You're part of a long network of people who are all connected on the road, and each person is getting information from each other, and you're all driving in the same direction. And it's just astounding that a freeway even works. I know it's a tangent of an example, but the amount of complexity that there is out there is awe-inspiring wherever you look. And when you approach the world this way, the ability to play becomes easier and easier. And so when you really practice play instead of trying to reach a destination, it really does change things. And so releasing the destination means to play, because I'm not focused on getting money, I'm focused on playing. And I know that the money will come because I am playing authentically, and then I show the world what my authentic play has brought. And most of the time, when you allow yourself to do that with releasing the destination, what happens is people are drawn to the authenticity, and that's why it's a byproduct of that. The galleries, the sales, the success is a byproduct of the authenticity, because people are attracted to authenticity. People are attracted to somebody who's not just confident. They're authentic. They're real. They're in play. They're in a state of play wherever they go. They're acting and reacting and being a part of a relationship within a network of people, and it's constantly occurring as they're going through their day. And so that's what being an artist is. That's what living a creative life is. And so what I want to do now is turn to an Alan Watts quote, the philosopher who, beautifully translated Eastern thought for Western minds. He said, "The point of music is not to reach the end of a song. Otherwise, those who played the fastest would be the best, and they aren't." And he wasn't just talking about music. He was talking about life. He was talking about the act of creating. It's not about reaching the end of the painting. It's about being in the painting. It's not reaching the end of the poem being written or the book being written. It's about being in the writing of the book and the poem or the song. It's about being in the moment. And when you're dancing, he also talked about this, when you're dancing on the floor with a music playing at a dance hall, you're not trying to reach a certain spot in the floor. Otherwise, you would just go there. What you're trying to do is experience the music and allow your body to flow with the frequency that's provided to you through the musicians that are there playing for you. So you're, again, playing, right? That's why I believe that music is actually one of the most representational forms of art, because it relates so much more closely to how we're supposed to live. It's representational of life, because it is very similar to how our lives should be lived. It's not about reaching the end. And that's what society tells you. Go to grade school, graduate grade school, go to middle school, graduate middle school, go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, go to get a PhD, go get a job, go get a better job, go get a better job, go accomplish this, right? Never do they teach you that you're supposed to actually, when you're in high school, instead of trying to get your high school diploma and finish your classes and do your homework, you're supposed to be enjoying it and being in the homework, being in the assignments, being in the experience of being part of this huge school with multiple students, right? And maybe the people who do the arts in the high schools and the colleges, like do the performing arts classes or the band, they get a better sense of it because they are allowed to experience their creative side at an early age. And that might be something that happened to you. It definitely happened to me. So art lives in the melody, right? It doesn't live in the end of the melody. Art lives in the melody. It's inside. It's within it. The art is within the thing. It's not at the finish line. And that's the goal of this podcast. It is not about reaching a destination. It's not about reaching a goal. It's about acting as if the goals will come because of the things that you're doing. And as long as you're deeply engrossed in the thing that you're doing in the most authentic and real expressive way, then all of the goals that you want for your life, the abundance will come. It just has to, because you are just so much more inspired to act. Every day you wake up and life is a gift when you live this way. Every day you wake up and you're like, what am I going to play today? We're literally in a sandbox. And instead of sitting there doubting yourself, experiencing shame or fear or reduction of expression within yourself, you wake up and you say, how can I express myself today? How can I bring my expressive value and divine worth to the world through my expressive practice, whichever art that is? It's an amazing, amazing approach to living life, rather than, like I said, it is so easy to allow doubt in, and doubt comes from the ego, because the ego says, I am this, I'm not that. Stay in your box. That is the point of the ego, to keep you safe, to keep you protected, to keep you away from discomfort and towards pleasure and I don't know, contentness. Well, discomfort, pain, challenge, those are all of the prerequisites to aim upward. You cannot climb a mountain without it being challenging, without you fighting gravity. And at the top of the mountain, the view is brilliant. The view is amazing. The view is awe-inspiring. It is what inspires art from around the world. You cannot reach upward without first going inward. You cannot reach for the goal that you have without first coming to the conclusions in your own mind about yourself, that the scaffolding that you have within your identity that spring forward from the divine consciousness that you actually are, the thing that you actually are within, right? Until you look at those things and start to repair the parts of your identity that need repairing, you will stay the way that you are. And the reaching that you do will be limited because the scaffolding above you is broken, right? If you have a very strong habit to limit yourself, to think you're not enough, to think you're not able to think you're not the same, to think that the world is structured in a way that's too challenging, or it's all about who you know, I don't have the same privileges as you, all of those things, those are scaffoldings within your identity that limit you from reaching. That's the goal of those ideas. They're a dark force that stop you and suppress you from actually reaching the higher levels of your consciousness that are possible. Within you, there is a power that is much stronger than those ideas, and that's why those ideas fall apart really quickly when you actually try to repair them and to move them away. They fall apart very quickly, especially when you act on your intuitive creativity and you allow yourself to play without doubt, without secondary ideation of what it could be or what could go wrong, or worry. Like, who do you think you are to worry? Like, you don't know what's going to happen, and so you're going to sit there and shake and in fear. No, you're going to forthrightly walk into the world and say, here I am. I've chosen my vocation to be an artist. I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to play continuously and forever until my last breath. The artistic journey is not one that you reach an end to. The end is only merely when you transition from life to death. That's the end of being an artist. There is no final result. It's just your body of work that you make and how much expression you can get out while you're here for the brief window that you're here. And so what I'll say is just continue to play, because play is not frivolous. It's sacred. It's how we learn. It's how we experiment. It's how we discover new ways of being. Play is presence without pressure, right? Play is presence without pressure. Like, imagine, somebody pulls a gun on you and says, now go play, right? That's impossible. How are you going to play with a gun to your head? That's what you're doing with your self-limiting beliefs. You're trying to go be creative. You're trying to go play. And all the while, your ego and who you think you are is holding a gun to you and saying, who do you think you are? That's what it's doing. That's what it's saying to you when you limit your expression. You're doing that to yourself. No one else is imposing that on you but your own mind. Those thoughts start and begin inside the skull between your eyes, inside the brain between your eyes, right? It literally happens there and only there. That's where it happens, and no one else hears it. No one else hears the thoughts. If your thoughts were projected on a loudspeaker, someone else has said this before. I'm not sure it was. People would think you were crazy. I think it was Sam Harris. If our inner monologue thoughts were projected on a loudspeaker, everyone would think we were all clinical, right? We all are clinical. We're all weird. We're all strange, and it's because we have those programs built into us by the societal structures that we go through as an upbringing, right? Our ceremony of upbringing is not what it used to be, and we're beat into submission through the schooling system, the government, the society that we live in, the family that we have, right? All of those things, and now it's our turn as adults to say, okay, this piece of the scaffolding is no good. I need to replace this with something new, something that works for me, that serves me so that I can climb it and move to the higher level of consciousness. I can scaffold myself up to a new version of myself where I can keep growing upward and upward and upward. And the only way to find the scaffolding that's repaired, that needs repair, is to go inward. You go inward, you find it within yourself. You say, when did it happen? As I said in my previous episode, when did it happen? You identify it, and then you relive and reframe those moments until you realize that they're not protecting you anymore. They're limiting you. They are limiting your expression. And as I always say, your chosen vocation is to express yourself as a career. You can go and be an accountant or a lawyer or a grocery store attendant. All of those things have a certain level of expression in them too, but you have chosen yourself to be an artistic person. And so your job is not to move things from place to place or express your labor for somebody else for pay. Your job is to express your inner workings, your inner identity, your inner soul, your inner divinity, whatever you want to call it. Your job is to connect to the thing that feeds you ideas, the creative spirit, the intuition within, and then make those things appear through the process that you've learned within your craft. That is the definition of the artist. And when you've chosen yourself to be that person, when you've chosen yourself to sacrifice away security and sacrifice away the good job that can have an easy pay, the career of whatever else could have been in stow for you, you sacrifice those choices away and you say, this is for me. This is what I'm doing. This is my passion. This is what I'm after. And once you fully surrender to the choice, to the decision of being that person, the rest becomes easier and easier. So I want you to, from this episode, I want you to really take these things to heart and start to do the inner work. You go in and you go up. You go in and then you go up. That's what happens every single time. I'm going to end this with one more little quote from Alan Watts, and that is his description of a student taking French in a university. So Watts said that there was a student taking French, and the reason he was taking the French class in college wasn't to learn the beauty of the language and to feel the French language on his tongue and to experience language and conversation with the French people or French-speaking people, to experience what it has to offer through the linguistic expression, but simply to fulfill the foreign language credit required for their degree. The goal wasn't to speak French, to taste it on the tongue, to laugh, to flirt, or stumble through conversations with native speakers. No, the goal had become just another checked box on the list of things that they needed to do to get their little piece of paper. And that's a tragedy, because the pleasures of speaking multiple languages, and you guys can speak multiple languages as artists because you speak in English and then you speak in painting or drawing or sculpture. You speak in poetry, you speak in music, you speak in performance art or theater, right? Whatever your art and vocation is, you speak in that way as well. And so your goal is not to just check the box of success and metric. Your goal is to experience the lovely expression of the art form in the moment that it's occurring. So when you go the next time to make something, take a deep breath and remove this idea that you're trying to get somewhere with it. Allow yourself to play. Allow yourself to make mistakes, to fix mistakes, to start over, to start again, to continue old pieces, to not think of it as such a burden, as such a traumatic burden, as such a hard thing. Being a creative person is easy when you allow it to be, when you allow your creativity to inhabit you fully, to your intuition to inhabit you fully, for you to just play. And when you play in this way, I'm telling you, your creativity just expands in so many ways. And so let go of the destination. Don't force your creativity into a box. Release the idea of success or recognition or approval. Do that. And when you do, you free yourself to create in the most genuine and fulfilling way possible. Creativity is not a race. It's not a sprint to the end. It's a journey of play, of exploration, and of being in the moment. Let the process be enough. Let the act of creation be the joy. The rest will follow when you create from that space, the space of pure authenticity. Paint like you'll never finish. Write like the words are still finding you, and play. I'm really glad you guys listened on this one. It's something I care about deeply, and I'm really glad to share it with you. If you have comments, leave them in the post. If you want to reach out to me about working with me one-on-one, there's a link in the description on all the platforms as well. I'm really excited about this episode. I think it's going to reach a lot of people. And as I always say, go out there and create something, guys. Express yourself, create, create, create.